Hey everybody, welcome to AMC Heroes episode 14. Here we are talking about the cinematic world of heroes and villains once again. I'm Jon Schnepp, and with me today is Dennis Tzeng. We've got from thinkhero.com. Dennis, welcome to board.
Thanks for having me. This is my second time on the show. I'm happy to be here.
Ready to rock it. And coming back once again is Robert Meyer Burnett. You're rocking it, rocking the accent art. Tell us about it. What's going on?
Thank you, John. Well, yes, our crowdfunded independent Star Trek feature, Axanar, which follows up Prelude to Axanar, which you can watch on YouTube right now, almost hitting 1 million views. We started production on the feature film this weekend, and I directed a scene that took place on the planet Vulcan. We went to the planet Vulcan. We are in the shadow of Mount Saleya.
I'm so excited. Like, I can't think of anyone more sweaty about Star Trek than this man right here. He's got the knowledge. We've had arguments about Star Trek. He always beats me because he could be like, he could actually name the episode of the title of the episode, when it was made. He also made all of the Star Trek behind the scenes special features for what? List them off. For Next Generation.
Well, Next Generation and Enterprise.
And Enterprise.
3 years I worked on that. And then I made Free Enterprise, the movie Free Enterprise that starred William Shatner, which should be out on Blu-ray but isn't.
At some point it will be, or it will just be a digital download that you can get from this man right here. So keep your eyes open for Axanar. Very happy to have him on the show again. Let's kick it off. We're going to talk about number one. But before we do, let's get into something that just dropped. Before we talk about Chiwetel, take that away. We're going to do something magical and talk about something that's not on that list. We're talking about Jack Houston dropping out or being fired or something weird happened. He's not part of the Crow remake. Dennis, what are your thoughts on this?
This movie is never getting made. I mean, how many actors have we had? It was like Bradley Cooper, Luke Evans, Tom Hiddleston, Jack Houston, and him leaving. And we don't know if he left or he got fired, but most likely he probably left. And that's not a good sign for the movie, because Jack Houston, while I like him a lot, liked him in Boardwalk Empire as Richard Harrow / Half-Face, he's not a big star.
Right.
So for him to say, no, I don't want to do the lead role of a well-known franchise, that's saying a lot. So I don't know. I won't believe this movie's coming out until they have a trailer.
What do you think?
First of all, I am so adamantly opposed to the Crow remake. I mean, I think The Crow, Alex Proyas's The Crow, is one of the great comic book adaptations ever. Mm-hmm. I mean, sure, its effects might look a little dated, but it adds to the whole sort of feel of the movie. Brandon Lee was awesome. Yeah. I mean, it was Michael Wincott as the villain. Awesome. The whole movie is it's kind of the way Bauhaus is the goth Beatles. The Crow is like the ultimate goth movie. If you're a sad kid getting bullied in high school or junior high, you throw on the Crow, man, and you're gonna find a friend that's gonna get you through the day.
Right, with that Cure soundtrack. Every time I go,
unbelievable.
The Stone Temple Pilots song.
Hey, it's
everything about that movie.
Ernie Hudson, the Ghostbuster, was in it.
Yeah, that's right.
And I'd like to point out that last year, Hot Toys made a Brandon Lee The Crow action figure.
Right, this is another weird collector of all the hot toys. He's got 100 of these like 12-inch characters surrounding him when he's like, now what are we going to do, my children? And they push them along into the refrigerator.
No, the Hot Toys figures never go into the refrigerator.
They've never been unboxed. Well, you have them on display, right?
I do.
All right.
I do. And that figure is exquisite.
Well, look, I love the Crow, the original Crow. The Crow City of Angels, the sequel was okay. They kept replacing. Obviously, Brandon Lee died, unfortunately, in a horrible accident. So the every further Crow got farther away from what the original Crow was, which was awesome. Then they had a TV series, and they've had so many different Crows I can't even remember. But I've been wanting to see James O'Barr's version of the Crow, and this version is the one that is supposedly closest to the comic book ever, because he himself has signed off on it, said everything they're doing is exactly like what I did in my original series. So I personally do want to see it, and it won't replace the original Crow, because I loved Alex Proyas's Crow. I thought it was great, and he's done a series of incredible films. Dark City, he's a really great director.
I like Knowing. A lot of people didn't. I really liked
didn't
Knowing.
Care for Knowing.
Right. See, I liked it. Styles White, a friend of mine on social media, wrote it. I mean, I thought it was good.
Plug, Styles Wide, whatever his name is. Look, I'm not going to bag on the films. I'm just going to say that I really did enjoy The Crow and Dark City, but I would like to see a different version of The Crow. And this might even be gothier. This could be spookier. This could be darker, but it's not going to have Jack Houston in it. That much we know.
Yeah, well.
Maybe Nicholas Hoult is going to take over, who was just seen in Mad Max Fury Road, did an incredible job in that. He's also Beast from the X-Men new franchise. So look, I would vote for him to take over if he's even in the running. But that was our little off topic on this side. So now we're going to get on topic. Let's talk about Chiwetel Ejiofor. That's right. He's got an awesome name. Chiwetel Ejiofor is playing Baron Mordo, or Mordo, which is what I like to call him, but it's Baron Mordo in Doctor Strange. So he's been announced as playing Baron Mordo, joining Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange and Tilda Swinton as the Ancient One. So it's written by John Spatz, who wrote Prometheus, and directed by Scott Derrickson, who did Sinister. So he's basically going to play Mordo as like an amalgam of a bunch of different characters. So that's what has been the press release so far. Let's start off with you, Robert. What do you think of this casting, and who do you think besides Mordo is he going to play?
Well, first of all, I love Chiwetel Ejiofor. I have. He was, of course, in Serenity.
Amazing villain.
He was a great villain in that, and I just think that, it's interesting that the Marvel movies, how they did a 70s political thriller with The Winter Soldier, and now they're going to do. It's going to be dark and edgy. I can't wait to see what they're going to do with this movie. Now, I don't know who else who else do you need? I don't know who else he's going to play.
Right.
But I am really excited for the Doctor Strange movie. I think it's going to be, I think Derrickson's a great choice to direct. And John Spates, a lot of people, his script for Prometheus I thought was really good. His script, The Passengers, which is an epic science fiction film, is finally getting made after many, many years. And it was a script that actually made me cry at the end. I totally teared up at the end. That never happens usually. But so I think I'm really excited for this movie. I mean, Tilda Swinton?
I know.
Come on.
It's amazing.
I mean, it was kind of cool because she was in Constantine too. She played the angel Gabriel.
Yeah, anything that Tilda's in, I love.
I actually got to hang out with her on the set of Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and no one is cooler than she is. Oh, I can't wait.
Dennis, what do you think?
It's weird because I like Chiwetel Ejiofor as well. I think he's a phenomenal actor. I'm not too familiar with the Doctor Strange lore and back history, but I was reading up on it, and Mordo is supposed to be a Transylvanian nobleman, and in this amalgamation of all these other characters, I just don't know why they don't just create a new character at that point. Why even call him that, and why have him be that, and just create someone new? Because if you're just gonna change it up or mix everything together, and we have to remember, most people are watching Doctor Strange, and actually, most of them don't even know who Doctor Strange is, right? When it comes out, they're gonna watch it because it's a Marvel movie. They're gonna advertise the hell out of it, and then you go even further back, even less people know who Baron Mordo is,
right?
And so I just feel like it's not necessary to come out with a name that's in the comic books just to appease a very small number of fans. I think just create a new guy.
Well, I look at it this way. Baron Mordo was there from the beginning of Doctor Strange's origin. I mean, look at Sam Raimi and Spider-Man. A lot of things that happened in the original Spider-Man from the 60s were carried over into the 2000 new Spider-Man. The way I look at Doctor Strange and how they're talking about adding new characters, back in 1999, I was such a sweaty that I wrote my own synopsis for the Doctor Strange movie, and I remember sending it off to the guy who actually owned the Iron Man and Doctor Strange license at the time. Of course, I never got a response. So I was like, this is my idea for it.
Now they're using the basis of your letter for the script.
Yeah.
I would hope so, because it was an awesome idea, if I do say so myself. Baron Mordo basically is one of the, when Doctor Strange, meets the Ancient One, Mordo's already there, just like in the comics, training under the Ancient One, but the Ancient One doesn't trust him. That's why he turns at the time to Doctor Strange, look, I've got this guy, you need to help me, and I'll train you, but this guy I don't trust. So Mordo opens up the world to other dimensions and sticks his head in there and kind of gets taken over by Dormammu, and he pulls his head out and he's got a flaming head. Henceforth, it's Baron Mordo and it's Dormammu. So that was my little way of you always have to shorten the origins a little bit or try to combine things when you only have 90 minutes to get across something that could take you months to read as a comic book, So if they are able to squeeze in other characters, I'm not saying that Mordo and Dormammu thing is going to work, but I'm just saying that's a way that they're able to fit in characters without too much compromise, I would say. So I'm waiting to see what they do. Like I said, Doctor Strange is one of my favorite comic book characters. I love the hoary hosts of Hoggoth, so it's by the eye of Agamotto. It's all this crazy stuff that Stan Lee used to write. I love saying all that madness. So
that was the sweatiest account in any comic book. Wow.
All right. Well,
I'm blown away. I'm going to go get all those back issues and read up.
They're way worth it. And it's Steve Ditko at his finest.
Yeah.
Opening portals to other dimensions, astral forms. Let's move on. All right, Spider-Man 2, who are they going to cast? What little kid is going to be thwipping around as Spider-Man? Who is going to play Peter Parker, a.k.a. the one and only Amazing Spider-Man? So rumor has it that it's down to Tom Holland or Charlie Plummer. Now, is Aja Butterfield officially out? We don't know. What's going on? What about Harry? What about Norman? Where's Norman, guys? Norman Osborn, right? He's a kid. Anyway, Dennis, what's going on? What do you think?
I don't know. It's crazy because for the longest time they were saying Asa Butterfield was going to be it,
right?
Or Aja, or whatever how you pronounce his first name. They were like, no, he's the front runner. There was other reports that he was confirmed,
right?
Like, oh yeah, he's the guy. And now he's not even in the running, and they got these other two guys who are actually lesser known than Asa.
Right.
I don't know. It's one of those things where these actors are so young. It's hard to judge them on their work because it's so limited.
Because they were just born like 3 years ago.
Yeah, like Charlie Plummer. He was in Boardwalk Empire, but he was barely in it. He was like barely had any speaking lines. He was just kind of there, And so it's one of those things where I actually had hoped they'd go a little older. I know they wanted to like cast someone so they could keep going on with the franchise, but personally, I think it's still too young.
What do you think, Robert?
I really like the idea of going young, only because Peter Parker was always a high school kid, and I did not believe Tobey Maguire even then in high school. And I want to see a real high school kid play Spider-Man, because what's that like when you accept the mantle of great responsibility? When you're like 16, that's rough. You don't even know who you are,
right?
And yet you have to deal with these powers, and then apparently you're involved in the Civil War. Then what do you do? Whose side are you on?
Right.
I don't know. I just want to go to prom with a hot chick. And I think that I like the idea of skewing younger. I don't know which one of these two gentlemen would be better or best, but I like the idea of somebody. I would like to see what's it like. Like in Chronicle, the movie Chronicle, how those kids had to deal with being super, Josh Trank's Chronicle, being superheroes. And I thought that was I love that.
But they looked like they were in high school. These kids don't even look like they're in middle school.
Well,
Spider-Boy. I don't even know how they could call it Spider-Man. You have to be a man in order to have Spider-Man be part of the title.
You grow into it.
Right, he's going to grow into it. Maybe they'll call him Spider-Boy during all of Civil War, then finally Cap will be like, look, you're Spider-Man.
Well, Tony Stark can call him Spider-Boy until he gives him the Iron Spider armor.
I don't want to see the Iron Spider. I do not want to see Iron Spider anything.
I want Hot Toys to make an Iron Spider.
Look, they can make it just for you, and you can have it. I don't want it in the movie. They're rebooting it. They can't have like 15 different outfits.
Iron Spider can be in Civil War.
And we still don't know how big of a role is he going to be like in the comic book? And remember, in the comic book version, he is adult. He's married.
And he reveals his secret identity.
Yeah.
Right.
Which was a huge moment.
Which also could happen in this. They're saying, because Kevin Feige's saying, Spider-Man's already in the Marvel Universe doing stuff. So maybe in Civil War, he's already in it as this little kid, and his mask gets pulled off, and they're like, Spider-Man. And he's like, I'm Spider-Boy. Or it gets pulled off, and they're like, he's just a kid. Freaks everybody out. That could be part of the story, is like casting so much younger if he is actually in the world of the cinematic universe of Marvel and their Avengers and Captain America, and he gets caught, and he's demasked, and it's a little kid. Maybe that's what causes all the problems. Who knows?
I can't wait. I'm just happy they're bringing Spider-Man into Civil War. It's something I wanted to happen. It's happening.
And at the same time, too, I'm saying all this. I trust Marvel. They've done a great job with casting and doing the right things for the stories. Obviously, you don't agree with 100% of their decisions, but for the most part, they've gotten it right.
Right, and these pictures could be 2 years old. We don't know.
Yeah.
They take the youngest photos possible. The children, 13-year-old. It's like, I don't know. Hopefully, I can't wait for Civil War. Everything about it sounds exciting. So whatever they're going to do with Spider-Man, I'll trust. But I liked Aja, to be honest with you. At least he looked like, hey, he could be a young Spider-Man, and it's not too young. So he looks, but whatever, Spider-Boy. Here we go.
Can I ask whose side you were on in the comic series? Were you with Tony Stark? Or
Captain America.
Really?
Yep.
See, I was on Tony Stark's side. I kind of believed once the New Warriors, they had a reality show. No, never mind.
I was with Captain America.
Yeah.
No, I was
Cap all the way, yo. All right, number 3, here we go. Channing Tatum, he's got a director. Gambit gets his director. Rupert Wyatt has signed on to direct the Marvel Mutant movie, Gambit, starring Tatum as everyone's favorite Explodo card-throwing New Orleans superhero. What do you think, Robert?
I think it's going to be great. Rupert Wyatt, he directed Rise of the Planet of the Apes, which I I thought was outstanding. Yes. I was so like, this movie's not going to be good.
I know the trailers. Remember the trailers?
Terrible.
Actively making fun of it. I had a bunch of Planet of the Apes fans who were working with me, and I was like, look at this garbage trailer. You really think this is? And then I saw it. I was like, I'm so sorry. I was wrong. It was
one of those movies like you went to see, like when you went and saw Die Hard for the first time. Back in the day, Bruce Willis in this movie, and he was on TV. How good could this movie be? Yeah. And you walked out of the film going, wow.
Yeah.
And I think the same could be true. The same was true of Rise of the Planet of the Apes. I mean, I loved it. I think, his last film was The Gambler, the Mark Wahlberg remake of the James Caan film, which I liked. I mean, it wasn't a perfect movie.
I didn't go see it because that was one of those remakes that really bothered me because I loved the original Gambler.
Right.
It's
great.
It's a downer film, too, which is one of the reasons I love it, because it's like, we were talking about that earlier on the earlier show. One of the questions was like, what about downer movies? Like, you don't want to see them again. And it's like Requiem for a Dream or 12 Years a Slave. It's like so horrifyingly emotional. You're like, it moved me. It's an incredible film. I never want to see it again. So
I just think it could be, I hope that they really delve into the sort of real New Orleans milieu of that, Cajun gambler, the den of thieves. I mean, I think it could be really, before he becomes Gambit, I'd like to see the world he inhabits before he becomes, it's really interesting that Fox is making now two, both with Deadpool and Gambit, these sort of very much part of the mutant universe. But the fact that they're doing these standalone films, I think is really interesting and really
so
cool.
Exciting.
I'm really excited.
I waited years for this.
I know, Deadpool and Gambit.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is crazy. And I do hope that he gets, I love Gambit's outfit.
I think they'll keep most of it. I don't know if they're going to keep that weird, like somebody already painted Channing Tatum.
Yeah.
That's not going to be happening, guys. Sorry. I know you're getting all sweaty about the costume. He's going to have that purple. He's not going to have that weird.
Well, what about the
thing.
long coat?
He'll keep, of course,
the long coat is a must.
Was it X-Men? Was it X-Men 266 that he was first introduced, where he's got like Baby Storm? I think it was something like that.
Someone correct him if he's wrong.
I might be wrong, but I love that. I've always loved Gambit.
Yeah, he's definitely going to have the long coat. He's definitely, he's going to have all the cards. He's going to have that staff. He's not going to have the weird stuff going on.
What about his hair? I can't see Channing Tatum with that hair.
No, I think it's going to be just Channing Tatum's short hair. I don't think it's going to be the Gambit-y type froofy stuff coming out of the, collar type, a 1980s sweatshop kind of look for Gambit. So I don't think that they're going to revise it a little bit.
Yeah, and even just his physical stature is different than what we see in the comic books. Because the comic books, he's more of obviously he's muscular, but he's more of a lanky, agile, fast guy, where Channing Tatum's a big dude.
Yeah,
so. Right.
So that's going to pose a big difference. But anyway, let's move on. We got our minor mutations section that we're moving into this week. We got a whole bunch of topics we're going to talk about, and then we're going to just pick ones right out of whatever we decide to talk about. Number one, we got Mark Ruffalo is now saying he is going to be in Civil War. As if we didn't have enough characters crammed into Civil War. I'm happy to hear that he's going to be in there. Because they got General Thunderbolt Ross popping back in. They're going to have him and not have the Hulk? Come on. I'd love to see Ross be the Red Hulk fighting Ruffalo as the Green Hulk, but people can dream. I don't think that's going to happen. Number two, we got Spider-Gwen coming to the silver screen. Now, Sony, before they went back to Marvel, they had like 7 million Spider-Man movies. They had an Aunt May movie, and that's not something that me and Ellis made up. That was actually a reality that they were talking about, making an Aunt May spy movie. So that's all gone, supposedly, but now we have this other alternate universe where Gwen Stacy becomes Spider-Woman, but instead her name is Spider-Gwen. All right, number three, more creepy Joker pictures show up. There he is. He's looking a little bit like Marilyn Manson. And you got the Bronze Tiger popping up too. What's going on? I don't know. There's more Suicide Squad stuff every week, even though supposedly they went dark. Keep seeing more stuff, which is exciting. I love seeing stuff like that. Quicksilver speeds again into set pics that Bryan Singer releases on his Instagram. Now, that was one of the highlight moments of the X-Men movies. We're going to get another fantastic moment with Quicksilver. I can't wait. Number five, more Batman versus Superman promo banners have appeared online via El Mayembe's Heroic Hollywood. He just can't get his hands off these promo pics. I don't know. He might have 7 more waiting to be released next week. There seems to be a non-stop, relentless amount of promo pictures and artwork for Batman v Superman. But I love all of it. So, guys, what do you want to talk about first? What cues you up?
I mean, the Civil War thing is interesting because it's Mark Ruffalo saying what he had heard from Robert Downey Jr. It actually wasn't. He says he hasn't gotten a script. He hasn't got a shoot date. He hasn't had anything. All he said is that Robert Downey Jr. told him, "Don't worry, you're in it. Just wait." And so, and he says whatever Robert Downey Jr. says, I take as Bible. So I think he's going to be in it. How can you not have the Hulk in Civil War? It's crazy. So I think he's going to be in it. And I'm hoping that maybe what your scenario with the Red Hulk comes out. I'd like that as well.
What do you think, Rob?
Of these things, I'm excited about Suicide Squad. I mean, I think there's a lot of people online bagging on it, like, "Oh, Harley Quinn doesn't look right," or I don't like the fact that it says broken or whatever, damage on his forehead. I mean, look, I think the fact that this Suicide Squad movie looks so bananas to me, and it kind of feels like the comic felt when I first started reading it. First, the comic was a little serious, Amanda Waller, and I think it came out in the wake of in the late '80s, so in the wake of Crisis. But I think this movie, he's got a pink Lamborghini or a purple Lamborghini, and you had Batman, I don't know if it was Affleck or a stuntman, riding around on the top
trying to cut the top open.
I mean, it looks, who doesn't want to see this movie? It's called Suicide Squad. They had, at the licensing expo in Vegas, they had a big display for it. I mean, I'm really excited. And I think that we're probably going to get one of the most bananas performances ever in any superhero movie, with Jared Leto's the Joker, and I can't wait. Bring it on.
Yeah, I agree 100% with the Suicide Squad. The thing that piqued my interest most was that Quicksilver picture, because after the not so great performance from Avengers: Age of Ultron's, that version of Quicksilver, which I don't know what happens to him, you have to see the movie, but this version, Fox's version of Quicksilver, destroys. I mean, that's the version I liked. I liked the way that Evans, I think his name's Evan Peters. The way his portrayal of Quicksilver was so fantastic. I love the way his character was written, how he does stuff all fast, he doesn't care. He's like, oh, whatever, as long as it's exciting. He needs to be amped up to want to do something. And that sequence in X-Men Days of Future Past was one of the standout, amazing scenes. I've heard people bellyache that it's like, well, he puts the headphones on, that music should be in slow motion. Go away from me.
Yes.
Get away from me if you think that way. I don't want to talk to you because that's just stupid. It's like, it's a movie. None of this stuff's real anyway. Do you want everyone else to experience a slow motion, slowed down song because you want it to be real? Get away from me. That's all I can say. I loved every moment of that sequence. I cannot wait to see Singer top it in this new movie. What do you guys think about that?
Well, that sequence was, it was brilliantly done, and that character was so much fun. I mean,
totally.
In basically what amounts to 5 or 10 minutes of screen time, he becomes indelible. Whereas, the Quicksilver in Avengers was not fun.
No.
He wasn't fun. And if you could do those things, what I loved is that Quicksilver in Days of Future Past, stole Twinkies and cupcakes and had boxes of them in his basement. What does his mom think when she comes down? Really? That much junk food you can do? You can do all these things and you're stealing from 7-Elevens? Mm-hmm. I loved his portrayal. I thought it was great.
You didn't like Aaron Taylor Johnson's accent in Age of Ultron? Yeah, you didn't see that coming?
You mean which version of the accent that vacillated through the whole movie? I just wanted Hawkeye to shoot him. That's how I felt. But I love Aaron Taylor. I think he's great in Kick-Ass.
I like him too. I just didn't care for the accent.
Yeah. Well, yeah. We'll move on from that, and let's go into a section that I like to call the flashback sequence. Today, we are going to talk about one of the greatest Superman movies ever made. It's called Superman 2. The sequel to the blockbuster 1978 film Superman the Movie, Superman 2 did what every kid, what every comic book reader, what every fan of Superman always wanted. They brought in villains who could actually provide a worthy challenge to the Man of Steel. By bringing in the villains who escaped from the creepy Phantom Zone music video mirror world, this film actually ratcheted up the stakes. No one ever looked at Coke signs again in quite the same way after Zod went smashing through one. And this was indeed the start of probably the most intense product placement ever created, and it started this whole thing because of that one famous scene. I think years passed for me always questioning the inconsistent tone of Superman 2. I've always loved specific scenes like Superman's first battle in Metropolis with 3 villains, but also hated other sequences like the guy still talking on the phone with his, when they're blowing the super breath and he's like, meow, 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 on the phone, and or sequences like, Superman throwing a giant S at the end, or all of a sudden, whoop, whoop, becoming multiple Supermans. I was like, where did these powers come from? So I found out later that later as a kid that most of the sequences that I loved were actually directed by the first director of Superman the movie. It was Richard Donner, and he was fired and replaced by Richard Lester, who actually ended up directing most of the hacky, joked up, stupid scenes that I didn't like. So regardless of these bad scenes that are in Superman 2, and later they replaced all those and came out only a couple of years ago with the Richard Donner cut of Superman 2, I advise you to take a look at both of those. This is still my favorite Superman movie ever made. To date, this is the one that draws the most nostalgia out of me, and it's got most of the highly quotable lines. So this is Planet Houston, or General, would you care to step outside? And of course, come to me, son of Jor-El, and kneel before Zod. What's some of your other favorite lines, Superman 2?
I see you are practiced in worshiping things that fly. I love that when he says that. He looks down and sees the presidential seal in the White House. I mean, it's great, and also, what an undemanding male this Superman must be. You know, when Ursa looks at Lois. I mean, I love that. And the movie opens like a Bond film. You know, it opens in Paris.
Yep.
And Superman hurls the terrorist nuclear device out into orbit, which shatters the Phantom Zone mirror so they can escape. And, you know, there's the landing on the moon that gets trashed by them. I mean, as a kid, look, now we're a little bit more sophisticated, perhaps. But back then, when it first came out, it was anything and everything you wanted to see.
Definitely.
It was so good.
Dennis, what are your favorite moments?
I love the moment when it's obvious. It's at the very end when Superman supposedly has lost his powers, and then he has to kneel before Zod, and then he has him grab his hand and he starts to crush it.
Yes.
And just like, you're like, yes, he got him. Because Superman, in that instance, because we know Superman, he's super powerful, he's invulnerable. But it was his intellect that conquered the day. He tricked both Zod and Lex Luthor into taking away Zod and Ursa and Non's powers and getting his own back. So I think and then also the trucker scene, the going back and beating up that trucker. Yeah, exactly.
I got to commend Gene Hackman in his role as Lex Luthor in both the first Superman the movie and this sequel, where he plays the wormiest guy on the planet. Thank God he wasn't. He was like, look, he just wanted a small chunk of land in this movie. I think it was Australia or something.
I love what he said.
And then he went to Cuba.
I've always had an affinity for beachfront property.
That's right.
What do you want?
Yeah.
Australia.
Yeah.
I love that.
Gene Hackman is just unbeatable as Lex Luthor in this movie. The best portrayal of Lex Luthor, bar none. Yeah. So if you haven't, I know you probably have seen Superman 2 a million times. See it again. And if you haven't seen the Richard Donner cut, check it out so you can kind of compare and contrast. Unfortunately, Richard Donner only shot about 75% of the film before he was fired. You know, in between finishing Superman 2, they shot both of them back to back, but he didn't get to complete it. And then they had Richard Lester kind of take over and shoot, you know, a lot of scenes that did work, like the Paris scene. That was his, but a lot of scenes that just didn't work. The comedic.
What was weird about that though is, I guess, even though Donner had shot 75% of it, Lester didn't like just complete the 25%. He shot over some of the scenes Donner had already done because he wouldn't get credit unless he got 51% of it shot. So he reshot some of the things that were already done.
Right. He had to redo a bunch of stuff that was better done before he messed around with it. So definitely check out the Richard Donner cut of Superman 2 and see what he was trying to do. And, you know, and they didn't get the ending right because they just, you know, they're like, look, what we have is what we have. You get that spin around thing. So, you know, it's not like a totally different ending. It's like, hey, didn't they end it that way in Superman the movie? Yes, they did. You can't go too far back in time to recreate everything. So.
You just reminded me, there's this totally obscure line that I don't know why I just remember this, but when they're getting the telemetry back at NASA from the moon, and someone says, I thought he said a girl. No, he said curl. Wasn't that what the old guys used to call a comet with an east-west trajectory? I don't know why I just remember that, but that was a line in Superman
That
2.
nugget and more
That
are in
was sweaty.
Superman 2. Definitely, that was a good sweaty quote. So let's get into the Twitter. Before we go to Twitter, let's not forget our Spotlight section. This week on Spotlight, we've got Jack Kirby's The Eternals. Check out these weirdos. Another one of Kirby's amazing takes on bringing characters, superhero characters, and keep trying to push the levels. Like he was doing the New Gods over at DC. He jumped back to Marvel and he took a lot of unfinished business with him. Once again, he gives us a version of new superheroes in the form of gods among men. This time, his return to Marvel with the Eternals. The battle this time is with the Eternals and the Deviants, two different races that were created by the giant space-seeding creatures, the Celestials, which you get a glimpse of in Guardians of the Galaxy, which I gotta say, as a fan of almost everything Jack Kirby has ever created, I love the Eternals. I love New Gods more, but I love the Eternals and what he was doing and integrating them. Originally, they weren't supposed to be part of the Marvel universe. They were like kind of a standalone storyline, but then Marvel kind of integrated them into the rest of the Marvel universe, Marvel Cinematic Universe. Henceforth, you see in the Guardians of the Galaxy, in a flashback scene, you see a giant Celestial walking and doing something in a pre-taped thing from the Nova Corps, I believe. So what do you have to say about the Eternals, Robert?
Well, also, it wasn't the Nowhere, wasn't that the head, made in the head of a Celestial in Guardians, which I thought was great.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to admit something here that I'm going to be skewered by all old school comic fans. When I was a kid, I hated Jack Kirby's artwork. I really couldn't stand it. I thought everyone looked like Cro-Magnon men, everything that he drew. And I didn't understand. I remember getting the 2001 comic and going like, what is this? Like I didn't, and it wasn't until later when I got into junior high school and I started really reading comics again as an adult. Camelot 3000, when I saw Brian Boland's artwork, Bill Sienkiewicz doing Moon Knight, that brought me back into comic reading. And then I rediscovered Jack Kirby's work and the cosmic scale of what he drew, and the Celestials they were playing with when they created the Eternals, and then the Deviants. They might have continued experimenting with the Kree and the Skrulls, and I just thought all of that was epic. And then you realize, kind of like the Krell Labs in Forbidden Planet, that's what Jack Kirby drew, these gigantic, miles-long things, and I realized that his 2001 comic was really about the people that created the monolith, more so than it was about Dave Bowman and Frank Poole. And Kirby's epic, universe-spanning ideas and thoughts blew my mind. Then I was like, all right, I understood and appreciated his artwork later for what it was. I mean, I know the bedrock of the Marvel Universe was his design work. And
well, for me, like I grew up reading Where Monsters Dwell, so I was instantly, absorbed into the Kirby universe. And like, of course, the monsters that are the Fantastic Four is why I love the Fantastic Four, because it was like a giant creature, a guy on fire, a dude who can stretch, all monsters, an invisible woman, not the invisible man, it's the invisible woman. So that was a natural progression. Of course, most of the characters that are the villains of the Fantastic Four are monsters, a dude encased in metal, Doctor Doom. You have the Molecule Man, a creature with a weird cut up face who can control molecules. Mole Man who controls monsters underneath the world. So it's like, that Jack Kirby is what I grew up with. And like you, I had a really good friend who passed away recently, but he was a person who loved Gene Colan, who hated Jack Kirby when I met him in college.
Yeah.
And
I was Neil Adams and Gene Colan.
Right.
That's what I liked.
And same here. He loved
Kurt
Neil
Swan,
Adams.
Superman,
He loved the realistic stuff. And I was
Absolutely.
like, look, it doesn't have to be real. It's about how amazing the compositions are. Look at Kirby's exploding compositions. Like every single panel has energy in it. And it was like, that to me is what Kirby is about, is this explosive creativity that can barely be contained within the page. Not only his ideas, which are all about like, what's the next step with superheroes? I was dealing with superheroes in the 40s. I'm done with that. What are we doing now? He was always coming with the next phase, the next thing. He was so ahead of his time. Only now are people slowly catching up with stuff that he did in the 70s or the 80s. Now they're like, I can't wait to see the Eternals or the New Gods or some of this later Kirby stuff adapted into TV or films. I mean, I think they're made to be giant idea films, and they're megalith blockbusters.
The effects technology that exists now, a couple of years ago, I picked up a lot of DC's Fourth World Omnibus.
Sure.
Like, I didn't know Jimmy Olsen was part of
right?
all of that.
Jack Kirby came to DC and said, give me your lowest selling comic.
Right.
And it was Jimmy Olsen. That's why he's in there.
And the whole Fourth World, I mean, I love Mr. Miracle, and I love Big Barda, and I love Darkseid and all the New Gods. Orion, great stuff.
Yeah, it's perfect stuff. What do you think about the Eternals?
Well, I mean, I'm not too familiar with them. I'm just wondering, they came out with like a newer version, right? That Neil Gaiman and John Romita Jr.
Yeah, that was really good.
Was it?
Yeah.
I definitely will check out both versions of it. Do you think they can actually make a a full standalone feature for this, or do you think they're going to integrate it into something like Guardians of the Galaxy or another movie?
Honestly, it's already been integrated. Like he said, that giant skull was a celestial skull, and they've already shown celestials in Guardians of the Galaxy. So that has already been that's woven into the fabric of the Marvel Cinematic Universe now. Where they go with that, if the celestials would be part of the Infinity Wars that are happening, why wouldn't they be, is my question.
What rights do they have, though? Because they don't have the Watchers' rights, right? That's the Watchers are like more...
Watu?
The Watchers from Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? It starts to get weird there. Like, I'm not 100% sure whether they have Uatu. I would almost guarantee you that Uatu and the Watcher is part of the Fantastic Four outer space universe. The Inhumans, though, are not. Yeah. So the Inhumans, and as well as the Celestials, which are now tied in with the Eternals, I'm sure Marvel has the rights to the Eternals.
Like Infinity?
Yes. Okay. I think they have the rights to all those characters. So
Kronos is part of that too, right?
Yep. I would not be surprised that with like phase, what phase are we in now? When they get to phase 5, when they'll be introducing Warlock, the Eternals, there'll be this whole other thing where like your minds will explode. Like, they're making those movies. Yeah, this coming out in 2025. No, such a long wait.
But I'm hoping they introduce Warlock in the next Guardians of the Galaxy.
I do too. I would love to see that happen. I would love to see Warlock be Chris Pratt's dad.
Yeah.
Star-Lord's father. Warlock. Well, we don't know. We'll see what happens. Let's go to the Twitter questions. This week, Nick Harold has a question. He says, why don't more comic book movies use comic book artists for poster art instead of lazy Photoshop efforts? Thanks. Well, Nick, I can't agree with you more strongly, as in my own film that I just made, The Death of Superman Lives What Happened. You can go online and check out the artwork for that. It's fully painted by an incredible artist who's been studying under Drew Struzan. His name's Nick Runge. And you got to check out his stuff. It's fantastic. Go online, check out that. And that's one of the reasons I complain about movie posters as being sloppy and they don't put enough time into it. So you got to put your money where your mouth is. I wanted to design a poster that definitely had moments of young Frankenstein, and I took that as an empathy, as a jumping off point, and gave that to the artist to run with. So, Dennis, what do you think about posters, modern posters now?
I mean, the reason why they don't do it is the same reason why they have giant floating heads in posters, right? Yeah. What they're trying to sell you is the actor and whoever the hell is in it. And so if you do I would love to see some comic book artists take on some movie posters. Most likely they're going to be like alternate movie posters that you could buy or they do online because it's not going to cost them anything to like print them out and put them on a big billboard or anything like that. But yeah, I think that's the main reason, is because they want them to know that whatever actor like Robert Downey Jr. and his giant face is in this movie, or Chris Pratt or whoever the hell else, that's the reason why.
Robert?
Well, I used to collect movie posters. I mean, I still am for vintage posters, but I think the last really cool movie poster was, ironically, for The Rocketeer. The Rocketeer was an amazing, that Art Deco piece where he's blasting. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, some of the greatest comic art in the world demands to be on a movie poster. I mean, get Bill Sienkiewicz to paint an Avengers poster.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be awesome.
He's an incredible artist. Believe me, I want to work with him.
Yeah, and I don't understand why comic books already have the greatest. You can go find the greatest piece of painted. I'm sure Marvel has a great Avengers trading card. Like Joe Jusko painted something that was awesome. That would have been a great poster. Instead, we get these messy. The composition's not good.
Characters are weird sizes.
Yeah, and it's always not the actors themselves' bodies. It's other people's bodies, and they just kind of plop the heads of whoever the actors are on.
I mean, you think about the graphic design of, say, Robert McGinnis's James Bond posters. Like, You Only Live Twice, when Bond is hanging upside down in the volcano, the base, or Live and Let Die, or Man with the Golden Gun. I'd love to see a movie poster like that. I guess you have to wait until Mondo.
Right. I mean, we do have those, like, that is the fallback where it's like, here's the generic kind of lame poster that the studios put out. Here's the artist's versions, which are always incredible, but super limited and cost way too much money. So you can like find a lot of these Mondo posters, go online and check those out. I would highly suggest just typing in Mondo and then your favorite film, see what pops up in images. You'll be very happily surprised.
Although, Marvel, I want to point out their Ant-Man poster when it was all white but with the Ant-Man poster this big, I was like, okay,
That's pretty cool.
that was a good poster.
I will say this about Marvel's, the Ant-Man poster that I liked was him riding the ant.
Great poster.
And I thought that was a fantastic image because
because
like,
it's
wow.
one image.
Yeah.
It's striking. It's in your face. It's really cool. And it says everything you want. I look at that poster, I'm like, oh, I want to see that.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm surprised they haven't contracted like Alex Ross to do any kind of painted posters.
I would love to say Alex Ross is built to make
Yeah.
a poster for movies.
Right.
It's like that guy is one of the most incredible savants of the modern age. It's like, why is he not doing Civil War?
Yeah.
Because that's a free idea for you people at Marvel. All right, let's move on. We got Sean H asks, is the MCU done with their one-shots? What do you guys think? Do you think that? I mean, I heard that they're not going to make any more of those one-shots that they were doing. What do you think?
I'm thinking probably not, just because they're probably not going to make any more because it's kind of too confusing now. I mean, the Marvel Universe is so big now, and usually they were doing those things to kind of like give a little backstory or a little something to explain, like with the Mandarin and stuff. But I think nowadays, because it's so big and so vast, they don't want to do anything that will contradict anything they're doing in the movies.
Robert, what do you
Well,
think?
they're good incubators, though. I mean, you could do like an Agent Carter one-off.
Like they did.
And they did, and it turns out, wow, this is really good. It's almost like not even a backdoor pilot, it's a pre-pilot.
Sure.
And let's see if it's interesting enough. Why not do them? Why not have young filmmakers? I mean, Kevin Feige's done a good job at tapping people to direct these films, bringing them from places you wouldn't normally think. James Gunn certainly, here's $170 million, James Gunn, and it worked. Why not use the one-shots the same way as audition pieces, finding new talent? I think they're great, and bring them back.
Yeah. I'm with Robert. I think I would love to do a one-shot for Machine Man. That's right. You heard it. It's never going to happen. But if they do, it's a great way to introduce characters that they're not 100% sure would work as a TV show or a movie. At least you get them introduced into the world. So.
I want Moon Knight. Please give me Moon Knight.
Would be amazing.
I want Moon Knight so bad.
All right, Keith Johnson has a question. He says, once Spider-Man gets his solo film in 2017, who do you think should be his first villain in the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
Venom.
Oh, really?
Just I want to see him done right.
Right.
We got him in the third one. I was so excited when they announced Venom was going to be in the third movie because
Sure.
ever since, and this is before even Sam Raimi, when James Cameron was going to do the Spider-Man movie, I was like, oh my God, what he did with Terminator 2, he's going to like bring that technology to Venom. And it's going to be awesome. And then I saw Spider-Man 3 and I was like, what the hell is this?
Not Venom.
So even though he's more of the modern classic Spider-Man villain, I want to see him done right.
How about you?
Craven.
Craven?
I want to see Craven's last hunt, but Craven comes to town gunning for Spider-Man.
Right.
The most dangerous game in New York City. Nothing cosmic. Keep it all in the DL. There's no lizards running around. There's no people flying on gliders made of whatever. I want to see one man against one man, or one young boy, as it is. But I want to see that. I want to see a small story that is also life and death. And plus, I loved Craven.
Craven was awesome, especially Craven's Last Hunt, drawn by Mike Zeck. It was a really well done storyline. I want to see Mysterio and the Scorpion. I want to see two villains, but they're both so different. Mysterio is all about special effects. He's a master special effects artist who's all about like all of a sudden Spider-Man's in a tiny world or he's in a different universe or what. It's like tricking him and stuff like that. While then you have Scorpion is just like a prison thug who's got a weird scorpion antidote, and, so he's super powered. So he's almost like the opposite of Spider-Man. You have the Scorpion. So I think that would be really cool. He also had like an electronic, scorpion tail, but he was, he's like Captain America. He's got a super soldier serum, but for bad. So it's like a bad guy and an even weirder, special effects artist. So I would love to, and he's got to have the giant fishbowl head.
I will say this: the Mysterio episodes of the old Spider-Man cartoon series were always the best ones because he would set up all illusions and traps for him.
I think that would be fantastic. So those are our guesses for our desires for Spider-Man for the new Marvel universe. He's probably going to fight Green Goblin again. And who's Green Goblin? That's right, Harry Osborn, kids. His dad is Norman. All right, so let's move into Dragon N. Have you heard of Banana Man? It's a British comic book character from the 80s. They're making a live-action movie in 2015. What do you guys think of Banana Man? I don't even know if this is real, but it was such a bizarre question.
I looked it up and I saw a cartoon. I don't know if it's the same one. He's wearing a blue outfit and a yellow cape, and he almost looks like, because I guess he was supposed to be like a parody of superheroes.
Right.
He kind of reminded me of, just visually, kind of like the Tick. So I don't know how that's going to work in today's age, because superhero movies are, much more serious now and taken more seriously now. I don't know how a parody, like think about what was that one movie, Blank Man, that Damon Wayans did back in the day. I don't think that's going to play well today.
No, I don't think so either. Even Meteor Man, which has had a little tongue-in-cheek, just won't cut it nowadays. What do you think?
Well, if you're talking about a British parody comic, Alan Moore's DR and Quinch. Have you ever read Alan Moore's DR and Quinch? It's basically about these two reprobates who drug taking. They're the worst of the worst. They run around. I remember they were going to join the military, and they walk into a room full of the greatest weapons you've ever seen. And one of them says to the other, "Wow, a vast array of totally lethal weapons." And they consider it for a moment. "We'll join." And it's just, it's Alan Moore doing this hilarious 2000 AD.
I pride myself in reading almost everything Alan Moore has ever written, and that's something that has escaped me up until now.
DR and Quinch, man.
I'm going to read it.
And the character design's great. You'll love it.
All right, let's move on. We got Mitchell Claxton. He's got a question. It's, what would you like to see an adaptation of the Court of Owls in a Batman movie in the DC cinematic universe? I would. What do you think, Dennis?
I would too. I would like to see Death of the Family first, but the only problem with that is it has all the Robins and there's all this back history. So unless whenever the Batman solo movie comes out, they establish that there's already been all these with Nightwing and all the different types, different Robins they've had, they can only do that way. Obviously we'd have Joker and we'd have Jared Leto in there, but Court of Owls was a great storyline as well. So I'd be all for it.
What do you think?
Yeah, I thought so too. I really like Court of Owls, and they're putting out an absolute edition of that storyline.
And I'm going to be buying that.
I am going
edition.
to be buying it as well.
I don't know if you guys have been checking out the giant tomes of the collected editions of these comic books, but they fit really well on your bookshelf. They look really cool, and they make it more fun to read because it's like a giant comic book. It's very heavy, though. I wouldn't just hold it like this.
No, I really like that storyline, and it was one of the only. That was a new 52 storyline. That was one of the only ones that I read and embraced.
Same here.
I was like, I wholeheartedly dig this
Greg
story.
Capullo's artwork is one of the things that drew me to it.
So much better.
So good.
Remember when he used to be like a McFarlane ripoff guy,
Spawn.
but like a poor imitation, right?
Yeah.
But now he's kind of gone and formed his own style.
And it's incredible. I love his artwork.
Stuff.
I love the way he's drawing the Joker in these newer issues. He's just fantastic, and he makes it so much fun to read Batman. I know Scott Snyder is doing an incredible job, once again, writing Batman. So it's like, if you love Batman, now is the time to be reading a fantastic run on the Batman series. I believe it's just Detective Comics right now, right? So anyway, guys, let's get to our extra sweaty question of the week. And I have it right here. Hang on one second. It's from Donald Long, and it's, why did they make Galactus a space cloud in Fantastic Four #2? So let's just get into this a little bit. This was the sequel to the Fantastic Four movie from a few years back, with Michael Chiklis as the Thing, Jessica Alba as Invisible Woman, Chris Evans played the Human Torch, and Ian Grifald played Mr. Fantastic. And who's the guy from Nip Tuck who played Dr. Doom?
Oh, I forget his name. But
Julian somebody.
Yeah. So anyway, they made one. It was like kind of jokey. Tim Story directed it. It was the guy who did Barbershop. And it was horrible. What a horrible film, especially for me, like a Fantastic Four fan. Finally, I'm getting an incredible Fantastic Four movie, and it's jokey, it's clownish, it's not serious. It was horrible. And I never even I got through about an hour of it, and then finally saw the other 30 minutes on cable, and I was like, it's garbage. Then they made a second one, Rise of the Silver Surfer. I was like, all right, well, they might, Tim Story's heard a lot of the fans' hatred of this film. Maybe he's gonna.
Did he really?
No, I know. I was giving it to him. I was like, hey, maybe he heard that people thought it sucked, the first one, so he's gonna kind of make a new one. And what did the new one do? Exactly the same mistakes that the old one did, but worse.
Worse, yeah.
So it's like, you have Silver Surfer in it. He was great. They had a great actor, Doug Jones, portraying the Silver Surfer. Of course, they had to voice him over with Morpheus. Lawrence Fishburne did the voiceover, which they didn't have to do. They could have kept Doug Jones' voice. He's great. He's a great actor. So that was irritating. Just on an extra side note, but the movie itself sets up the Silver Surfer. He's the herald of this great galactic creature that devours planets. His name is Galactus. And what is he? He's a giant purple cloud. Come on. I mean, I remember when I heard that Galactus was going to be portrayed as a giant purple cloud, one of my friends was making the special effects at the time. This is before the movie came out. And I said, wow, you're working on the Fantastic Four? That's amazing. So what does Galactus look like? He's a giant purple cloud. And I was like, no, seriously, what does he look like? No, he's a giant purple cloud. He doesn't have a form. He's a giant purple cloud, sentient cloud that shows up. And I was like so angry that I remember writing into Ain't It Cool News under a pseudonym and said, check it out. Galactus is a giant purple cloud. And it went all over the internet. And then I remember hearing like Fox was like, no, it's not a giant purple cloud. He's in it. There's a character. And then they added that one shot of a shadow of Galactus's helmet on the moon as a cloud. Horrible. So horrible. What do you guys think? Dennis, Galactus is a cloud. What are your memories?
See, by the time they got to the point where Galactus shows up, I had already like given up because it was called Rise of the Silver Surfer.
Right.
And when they introduced Silver Surfer and I saw him and I saw how he acted, I was like, this is terrible.
Yeah.
He doesn't look like, he didn't look like the Silver Surfer. He was like some sort of gray mush thing. And just none of the story of his backstory is really told. I was so disappointed. So by the time Galactus showed up, I was like, whatever. I don't care anymore. And I just figured they just wanted to save money. They're like, we don't want to, full on get the guy, and Galactus's outfit is so classic and iconic. They're like, no, just some clouds and whatever, a storm is coming.
But remember, you're talking about like there were producers on this who were like, he looks stupid. What, you're going to have a giant guy in this silly robe as Galactus? Just make him a cloud. That was I don't know who said that, which producer said that, but that's coming from up above. They did not want a giant guy in an orb playing Galactus. They wanted like a big cloud. What do you think?
Well, to be fair, they didn't live in the post Guardians of the Galaxy world then.
Right.
If it was, you could make Galactus the way Galactus is supposed to be. He could have a giant galaxy spanning spaceship and he could be eating planets for real. But at the time, they didn't understand how to take the Fantastic Four, that they had to keep grounded. They had to be like real people, and then add this cosmic element. I think that it was a movie fighting against itself, and that the world had not grown up enough and had not matured enough to know that you could make a movie where a giant celestial's head is also a place of commerce, where the Collector has his home base, where Howard the Duck is. I mean, can you imagine explaining that? So those conversations with somebody who's probably going, no, but Galactus is a guy. Like he's a huge person in a purple outfit, kind of like Gambit's outfit. Let's do that. I'm sure the execs are like, no.
Well,
we can't. But now the world has changed.
I will play devil's advocate. The world has not changed that much. We had a movie come out only a few years ago where the villain was a giant brown cloud, and that's Green Lantern. So even people like, hey, look, remember when everybody hated and completely threw away that movie ending of Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer because it was a giant purple cloud? And how do you fight a giant purple cloud? You don't. It just floats around and some things happen and the movie ends. That's exactly what happened with Green Lantern. He fought a giant purple kind of diarrhea cloud. It was a brown cloud.
It was a poo cloud.
A poo cloud that was kind of floating over buildings, not frightening or scary at all. You have Ryan Reynolds shooting at it. And you're like, it doesn't matter what happens.
I'd be scared of a poo cloud.
You're right. You run away. You don't try to fight it. It's like, here comes a poo cloud. Run. That's all you.
Fox did the same thing. They put another scary cloud in their Day the Earth Stood Still remake.
That's right.
They had the sweeping cloud that could dismantle buildings.
That's right. It was a nanobite cloud. From Alien Nanobites. So
someone at Fox must have loved
the sweaty
clouds.
Bonus question. Moral of the story is: do not use clouds as villains anymore. We're done with clouds. No fan or person going to see a movie wants to see anybody fight a giant cloud, purple,
because it's
brown,
not
or whatever.
scary. It's not a thing. It's not. You can't be like, it's like you watch The Happening, M. Night Shyamalan. The enemy was the wind or
people
whatever.
running away from leaves.
Yeah.
Well, if Toho remakes Godzilla versus the Smog Monster,
Hey, I like
I'd watch that.
The smog monster is a thing, is a tangible creature that's built out of dirt and gross grime and stuff. So it's not a cloud. You're right. So
I stand corrected.
all right, let's sign off. Thanks again for watching episode 14 of Heroes. Where can we find you online, Dennis Tzeng?
You guys can find me on Twitter at ThinkHero, or on Instagram dennis.tzng, and on YouTube ThinkHeroPro.
Robert Meyer Burnett, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Instagram at RMBurnett, or on Twitter at BurnettRM, or Facebook Robert Meyer Burnett, or you can also find me on the Star Trek Axonar.com page.
Nice. And you guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Jon Schnepp, at TDOSLWH. And also check out www.tdoslwh.com, where you can pre-order my film, The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened. You can get it right now. You can pre-order it. You can get the digital download or the Blu-ray or the DVD. Come to San Diego Comic-Con in less than a month. I'm going to be there. I have a booth number 3915. Come say hello, and we're going to be screening the film somewhere around there. We're going to have posters and all kinds of stuff for our film. So I'll see you then, and thanks again for watching AMC Heroes.